RWOH is what the IMDb is telling me. Welcome to the Weekly Fix podcast, where we're just two friends talking about our passions within movies, TV shows, gaming, and comics. Thanks for checking out the podcast. We hope you like it. Welcome. So glad you guys could join us. Today we have our Weekly Fix episode that we are bringing to you hot and fast. We had a potentially a little bit slower episode, I think, for the Acolyte. That's my opinion, a little slower, but that doesn't mean bad. So you have to stick around just for a little bit to hear our thoughts on that. We have some Deadpool initial reactions. I watched some interesting movies over the week. So I'm excited to talk about which ones I watched, and maybe Jacob watched some stuff too. I doubt it because of how much he's been packing, but we'll try it. And then we got some new releases and two trailers that dropped that I'm very excited to talk about. And Jacob, I know you watched both of them. First off, as always, how are you doing? Are you having a pretty good weekend? How was your fourth?
Yeah, it was fun. It's always fun being able to get outside and stuff. We've had some nice weather, which is always nice. We probably needed some more rain than we've gotten because all of our grass is dead. But other than that, it's been really nice weather. Always fun. 4th of July is actually one of my favorite holidays because I just like being outside, being around people. I love cookouts and things like that. So that stuff's always fun. But how was yours?
Oh man, I had just an amazing 4th of July weekend. We had my brother-in-law came in for the week to visit before he starts a new job, which was just a great time because we get to go explore Jacksonville every time somebody comes in, kind of splurge on eating out. So we got to eat out a bunch with him. Got to go to a Ichetucknee Springs, which is amazing. If you're in the Jacksonville area and you haven't gone to Ichetucknee Springs, it's an awesome spot. Just a very cool, natural lazy river. Honestly, just a real joy. Then we did a cookout with my actual brother on the 4th and his kids and wife, and that was amazing. Had them over, got to get them in the little blow up pool, so that was fun for them. And then to top it all off, on Saturday to celebrate being cancer free, me and the wife and the brother-in-law went skydiving, which was, I mean, one of the best experiences of my life. Absolutely incredible. And I could not be happier that we pulled the trigger on it and actually did it and paid for the photos and videos, even though that is ridiculous add-on expense, but definitely worth it for first-time skydivers just to relive that moment, because it is once in a lifetime. You only get to jump out of a plane for the first time once. And I'll probably be jumping out of it again. That was something that I definitely loved and enjoyed, and will have me bring it back. But I've wanted to do it for a long time. I was so glad I got to do it this weekend.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I completely agree with paying for pictures and stuff on like things like that because, like you said, you only get to do stuff like that for your first time once. Me and my wife actually paid extra when we went snorkeling in Hawaii, and we are so happy that we did because you literally get to relive those moments, and that's priceless. So no, that's super cool and it's definitely worth it. So if you guys are on the fence about, when you're doing something for the first time, and you're like, I don't know, should we pay for the pictures? Definitely, it is worth it if you guys can swing it because that stuff always makes such a big difference and it's always fun to look back on.
It's actually funny, you guys talking about your experience in Hawaii and how much more you enjoyed snorkeling, and then also got to enjoy the pictures and how good they were, is actually one of the reasons I went ahead and got the pictures for skydiving. So that was in the back of my mind. I probably would have done it without that conversation, but that really solidified it in the back of my mind. I was like, okay, I know it's stupid expensive to do this, but my daughter's already watched it 30 times, so she's got her
Well,
money's
that's worth
worth
it
out of
alone.
it or
Yeah,
not.
that's
So
worth it alone.
but that's good. So we had some trailers releasing. Jumping right into it, I'm going to talk about the F-1 trailer first. The new Brad Pitt Formula One racing movie. This is one that is apparently incredibly expensive movie coming out, with a very high budget, very high cast. You like F1 racing, correct?
Yes, I do. It's hard to keep up with because like when those races are going on, it's all over the world. But I do try to keep up with it. I actually got into it from probably how a lot of other people got into it from the F1 documentary that they do on Netflix, the Drive to Survive series. If you guys haven't watched that, it is super good. Even if you're not an F1 fan or a car fan, I think that could really get you into the sport because it's really just honestly like high levels of drama, which is kind of funny to say, but it's really good, and that's kind of what got me into it. So this movie's been on my radar for a little while now, and it's got, like you said, a good cast. I believe I saw that Hans Zimmer is actually the one doing the soundtrack for it. So that's super cool. I think anytime he's a part of a project, you're in for a good treat at some point during the movie. So I think this is going to be a very interesting one for sure.
I actually didn't see that Hans Zimmer was doing it, so that's awesome. Javier Bardem is also co-starring
Yes,
with Brad Pitt, and
yes.
he's very good. It's directed by Joseph Kaczynski, which there is no, it's not Krasinski, it's Kaczynski. But he directed Top Gun Maverick, and he also directed Oblivion. Those are the two movies I've seen of him. Top Gun Maverick was absolute gem. Uh, I absolutely adored it. It was so good coming off of the first one, and you don't have to watch the first one to enjoy Top Gun Maverick. And I think everyone should watch Top Gun Maverick, regardless of where you're at. And then Oblivion was a sci-fi epic that I really enjoyed. It's not an all-time classic. It's not one that I recommend to people, but I do enjoy it. So those are two Tom Cruise starred movies. So he knows how to work with big names, knows how to work with
Mhm.
big actors, with expectations. So I think he's going to probably do a good job with this. Did the trailer get you more excited for this?
I don't know that it necessarily got me more excited for it. I mean, I'd probably say I'm about on the same level. Again, it's one of those movies. Yeah, I'm sure I'm excited for it. I also don't know if I'll go to the movie theaters for it either. Again, this could be one of those ones that I kind of wait until it comes to streaming or something like that. So it didn't get me. It did not push me over the edge where I'm like, oh, I have to see this in the movie theaters. But I think this will be one of those movies that if you do see it in the theaters, I think it might benefit you just because of all the sounds you're going to be hearing. I feel like it's going to have kind of that Oppenheimer effect in a way where like the sound's really going to hit you through some of those scenes that wouldn't be able to be replicated at home. So I see some benefits to going for it. I just don't know if it's one of those things I do want to commit the time to, and really set, a time to go do it.
I definitely think that this may be one that needs to be experienced in the theater.
Yeah.
And one of the
Yeah.
reasons I say that is because there's about 10 words in the trailer.
Yeah.
Almost the entirety of the movie was racing, and it reminds me a lot of Ford versus Ferrari, and how much watching that in the theater, hearing the rumble of a small block Ford in the cinema with the surround sound and all of the enhancements that experience allows you to have really did enhance that movie for me. I still love Ford versus Ferrari on the when I watch it at home, one of my all-time favorite car movies. I think it topped out at number one for me. So, but watching that in the theater, I think did enhance my experience, and I think it would do the same for this one. It's not one I'm on the same boat as you. I don't know if this is going to drive me to the theater to watch it, but I would want to see this one in the cinema opposed to at the house.
Yeah, I think it just all goes back to that sound effect stuff. I mean, you are not going to replicate it. I don't. You don't replicate any movie at home. It's always an experience going to the movie theaters. But some movies really take advantage of that. I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick, but I feel like that's a movie that really benefited from being in the movie theater, being able to hear those sounds and stuff like that. Ford versus Ferrari was a great example of that as well. So I don't know that there is a better opportunity to watch that if you are wanting to see it. I think we're both, like you said, we're both on the same fence about if we actually want to go do it, spend the money on it. But it'll be a good experience for you, I think, if you are one of those people that is excited to go see this in the theaters.
It's so funny because I think 5 years ago, this would have been a no brainer for me to go watch in the theater. But now that I have to get a babysitter, I have to be so picky about what I go to watch. And it's really changed what is worth going to watch
Yeah.
in the theater for me. Because I really did just I love going to the movies. I love watching movies at the theater. It's such a great experience for me. But now there's an added obstacle. Doesn't mean I don't go, but it does mean I'm more picky. So as for now, this is on the fence. If I have some people that'll go with me that want to watch this one, I'll definitely go with them. But as for just for me, it's not one that I'm gonna like, hey, like we gotta go watch this.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think this one would be very fun to go see with some friends, people that appreciate the sport and stuff like that. I think it will be a good movie. I could see this movie actually rating really, really well, and critics being, very excited about this movie because the cast is good. I think it's gonna be very well directed and all that stuff. I just also feel like it's going to be one of those movies that doesn't bring in the big dollars like maybe they're expecting it to. I think this movie could be a movie though that runs away with a lot of awards when we get to that Emmy and Golden Globe stuff. So it'll be fun to see how it plays out. Overall though, I think this is one to keep your eyes on for sure.
Yeah, and this trailer is coming out crazy early because for those of you who are curious when this is coming out, it's actually coming out June 27th, 2025. So it does have quite an early start on the hype train for this movie because that's almost, I mean, that's over a year away. So
Yeah. Yeah, you
well,
almost
no,
make it
just under a year away. Sorry, I can do math. Just under a year away.
it almost makes you a little bit concerned though if they are worried about the popularity of it. If they're already trying to generate hype and stuff like that this early on, that hype you might generate now will be awesome. You might be getting some really good views on your trailers and all that stuff. But being almost a year away, people are going to forget. People are going to move on and get excited for new things that are coming out sooner. So I don't necessarily agree with putting a trailer out this early. I think we see that a lot more in today's cinema culture and stuff like that. We don't really start seeing movies and shows hype till a couple months before. People's attention spans are really short nowadays. So if you capture that stuff, you want to really be able to hold on to it. So I think that was definitely an interesting tactic for them to release a trailer so early on.
Yeah, definitely something that we don't totally see. I mean, we saw that with what was it? Was it Mobius? Morbius.
Yeah.
Morbius with trailer dropped like a year and a half before the movie came, and it went into production nightmare and the delay heaven. So it was just not a good move for them. But I don't think this one's going to run into the same issue. They're going to keep the buzz going. They'll release a bunch of stuff. I don't think this is as spoiler find the spoiler as much as some
Yeah.
of the things we're used to watching. So I don't think there is as much risk of dropping something early because people aren't going to dig into like try to find the script leaks online and everything. So which I think is such a shame that people really dive that hard into some of the stuff that we're into nerd culture, just really full sending it to find everything they can about the movie before they watch it. I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the delays and stuff. That's something we see in the video game industry a lot nowadays. Is we might see a trailer for something a year in advance, right? But usually they won't put a fine print date on it. They'll might just say coming soon or coming 2025. So I thought that was definitely an interesting tactic that they put a date like you can expect to see this movie there, which is another one of those things that's just going to generate so many headlines if you do delay it, and that's kind of negative towards the film. So I thought that was interesting, and touching on people being so addicted, I guess the word would be, to finding spoilers and stuff like that. I don't understand it either because for me personally, I do such a good job and I try so hard at trying to avoid that type of stuff. Now, it's so ingrained in our culture nowadays, but it's fun to actually be excited about something and surprised by things. I think it goes back to like, you get a birthday present or a Christmas present, you don't really want to know what it is. You'd like to be surprised by it. So it's so interesting to me that the culture we do live in is so into finding out stuff way before they should know it. But I don't think, like you said, I don't think this movie is going to be affected by it because I don't really think there's anything to spoil here necessarily. But overall, I think this will definitely be a fun movie to keep our eyes on for a little while.
Absolutely, and it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. At least when the time comes, maybe I'll be ready to go watch it. But
Yeah.
who knows? The other trailer we got was Agatha Harkness. Our first one, it was Agatha all along. The name change queen, the villain from WandaVision. We get Agatha coming back into the spotlight, a side character getting a Disney Plus spinoff, and we got our first trailer. I'm gonna ask the same question a little bit before I did on the F-1 trailer. Did this get you excited for Agatha Harkness?
No, unfortunately, this one did the opposite. I think I'm even less interested in this show now. I think we've talked about it a lot more so recently than probably ever on the podcast. especially talking about like Inside Out 2, and do things really have a story to tell? And this one just does not feel like it has a story to tell to me. Now, I could be very wrong. This could end up being a really good show. I think it does have some potential. The trailer showed some things that got me a little bit like, oh, that's cool that we're seeing that, and we met some name drops and stuff like that. But overall, I don't see the story here. I don't think this is a character that's really deserving of an entire show. I think she was better off being a villain in something, or one way or another giving us her story in half of an episode of another person's show. I think that would have been much better than giving her an entire show. We talked a little bit about it earlier today. I think they're playing a lot into this being a Halloween released show, which I don't necessarily like, because it definitely just feels like a cash grab at that point. Like, oh, you want something a little spooky to watch during your Halloween season? Here's this Marvel show. I'm not excited for this one, even less so than I already was. But I guess it's something we're definitely going to watch. I mean, I'm not going to watch it, so they got me there, I guess. But no, this one did not push the needle forward for me at all.
Didn't push the needle one way or another for me. It did spark my interest a little bit. I was already intrigued by what they were going to do and who they were going to incorporate. Some of the actors that are getting roles in this always interest me. I think Aubrey Plaza is the
Mhm.
most interesting for me on this list because I
Yeah,
love her in Parks and Rec. I love her in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. There's several things that she does that I've really enjoyed her role. She's very cynical. She just has a presence that I'm very familiar with, and I like what she does. I don't know if that's enough for me on this
yeah,
one to get me excited. It's definitely not enough to get me excited. Um, Her performance in WandaVision was really good. I really liked WandaVision. I thought that was really good, but kind of like you, I just don't care if she gets her powers back. I
yeah,
don't care about Agatha. So I think this was back in the time when Marvel was just swinging at everything with Disney
yeah,
Plus and trying to put as much out as possible, and they really took some risk. And we're seeing the backlash of that now with some of the shows that they really just totally missed a mark on. And I'm worried this is kind of like Echo, and they don't want to get the Batgirl backlash and just cancel things that have been finished and sink all that money that they sent into it. So they're going to release it anyway. And I'm kind of thinking that's where this one's at. It's okay, we didn't really love what we have, but it's definitely not bad enough to cancel. Let's release it anyway. I just hope it doesn't hurt the Marvel brand any more than it's already hurt, and they actually do a good job with it. I think they can. It's just it's just to me it doesn't look like it. They're going to have some name in this show, I think, to bring the interest, to bring the good. You touched on the Halloween aspects of it. Halloween is my least favorite holiday. If I could have any other holiday, I would. Literally, like St. Patrick's Day, Martin Luther
right.
King Jr. Day, President's Day, anything but Halloween. I do not like Halloween. I never celebrated it as a child. I still don't like celebrating it. I think it brings out the worst in people and the worst in our society, and so I don't love all the spooky stuff, and that's just ingrained in me. So witches isn't something that makes me run to the screen. Hocus Pocus, I don't like
Oh, I
any of
hate that
I
movie.
hate that stuff. Don't like it. I
Yeah.
never watched Harry Potter. I wasn't allowed to, and it just didn't interest me. I didn't even want to. It wasn't one that like I was like, oh man, I really wish you guys would let me watch this. I was like, okay, that's cool because I'm not interested by it. But this one has everything I don't want to watch in a Marvel film, and
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna watch it because it's Marvel. I'm excited to talk about it, kind of like I am with Acolyte right now. But I hope they surprise me. I hope they surprise me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. We both have said it. I don't think there's a story here. She is not really that interesting of a character, and I know they're going to try to do some things. I feel like you touched on it perfectly by saying this was one of those projects I don't think we would have gotten had they not gotten so invested in it already. I mean, we've already seen them saying they want to slow down production and really start getting back to the more quality over quantity stuff. This feels like a quantity project, so I think that's something that we're going to experience. But nonetheless, we're gonna watch it. We're gonna review it. So it's fun to just have something to watch and review because we both love Marvel. So I guess if there's one bright aspect to this, it's probably that.
It's so funny because they have an Ironheart series that is done, Iron Wars series with Rhodey that is done, and we're
Mhm.
not getting either of those released yet. We're getting Agatha. It just seems weird. Like they're making some strange decisions.
Yeah, again, I think this is part of that backlash that we've seen so much of. With I think they're working in the right direction. I think we can both agree that going for the quality stuff again and really slowing down, only giving us a couple shows a year and maybe a 2 or 3 movies at the most. This year we're only getting one movie, and I guess we're gonna really only have one show. So it's gonna be, I think, a change of pace, which is what we've wanted. But I agree with you. I think both of those other ones you mentioned are more interesting than Agatha. So I'm a little disappointed that we're not getting those. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get them at some point. I'd be surprised if they don't give us those products because they're already completed. But it's going to be interesting to see how this one reviews. Hopefully, it doesn't just get absolutely destroyed and people do lose more faith in Marvel. I do think this puts more of a heavy emphasis on Wolverine performing well. So they really better have a good card up their sleeve with that movie. Which, by all accounts, I think we're going to talk about it. Sounds like it's going to be a pretty good movie. So that's something I'm super excited for. But Agatha, for me, it's not an excitement one for me, but it's one I'll watch.
Yeah. Now you just touched on the next point, and that was Deadpool versus Wolverine first reactions. Now,
Yeah,
I just talked about steering completely and totally clear of anything that's spoiler related.
yeah,
So I as soon as I've started seeing anything, I've kind of clicked off, got off the social media because there's no chance I'm gonna get something spoiled already. I mean, I feel like they've already been putting out too much in the trailers, and everyone with the set photos, and you can't avoid it unless you just don't follow anything Marvel
yeah,
related. But the initial reactions I've heard is this is peak Marvel.
yep.
Sean Levy has their complete and total trust. Absolutely amazing. Is that what you're hearing?
Yes, and I'm the same way. That's all I've heard. Actually, is that the line you just said that Deadpool and Wolverine is peak Marvel. That is the extent to what I've heard about this. So, if you guys are here to hear us talk about, oh, here's what we've heard, here's the rumors, here's the leaks, I don't think you're going to get any of that in this episode. But what you are going to get is, I think we're really in for a great treat, which I think is all we've wanted. This is such an exciting time. I don't know that there's been a Marvel movie generate this much hype probably since Avengers Endgame. I mean, well, I guess Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
But
Spider-Man
yeah, No
definitely
Way
did.
Home definitely did. But other than that, it's really kind of been just, oh, we're getting this movie, we're getting that movie. Outside of Guardians of the Galaxy, this is probably the most hyped movie since the Spider-Man stuff. So I think this is really exciting. And man, hearing the words peak Marvel thrown around, it has you a little bit nervous because we have our expectations really high already. At least I do. And this one definitely puts it even higher. So we'll see what we get. But yeah, the initial hearing good things about the initial reviews is definitely a good sign.
It's a positive. It's definitely going to boost that initial box office performance, at least somewhat. Word of mouth and community driven hype is always what drives the box office more
Yeah,
than uh, what is it, marketing. So I definitely think this is going to help it just a little bit ahead. I think the person that I heard it from was My Time to Shine, which
yes,
I do not like a lot of what he posts. A lot of what he leaks is untrustworthy, but I do know he's seen it. He was at the press screener. So the other people that I know have seen it. I think they let too much slip when they do their spoiler free reviews. I don't
yeah,
consider them spoiler free. So I don't listen to those until after we watch the movie. And now I don't listen to them until after we've reviewed it. So I don't know anything else, but I am excited. I'm glad that he liked it. I also know people that really loved the Eternals and really loved Thor: Love and Thunder before it was released, just because they, are Marvel junkies and they were excited and they saw a movie in the theater and they enjoyed it. So I hope that's not this, and I don't think it is. I think those days are done. That people are going to be just excited because it's here,
yeah.
but it's exciting to see it, to see
Well,
good news.
which leads me to my next point, though, is guys, make sure you are reviewing the podcast. Make sure you're letting your friends know about it so we can get to these pre screening movies eventually, so we can give you guys our thoughts on it. You see where I'm going with this?
Oh,
But no,
absolutely.
but no, just I'm excited for it. I also heard it from that same source as well that it's peak Marvel. So man, I really don't have anything else to say, but if you guys couldn't tell, I'm already smiling right now thinking about it. So hopefully we're in for something that's going to be really special, and I definitely think we are.
Now, a little bit off topic, off brand, is something I had a question about. And, sometimes I ask these questions and I have no clue what the answer is. I feel like I know the answer to this one. Have you ever seen Beverly Hills Cop?
Nope.
Yeah. I assumed that was a big old nope coming my way, but I thought I'd ask because I was in we just had Beverly Hills Cop Axel F released on Netflix. Now, Beverly Hills Cop is a story about a detective that is from Chicago, and a murder happens that leads him to Beverly Hills, and he follows and meets up with detectives in Beverly Hills. And it's an Eddie Murphy film, and it's from the 1980s. It's amazing. It's very, very good. Eddie Murphy is at the peak of his career. His charisma is stunning. It is charming. He is hilarious. It is an interesting story. It has a great plot, and it's something that I really enjoyed as a child. I've watched it many, many times, and I really need to give it a rewatch because I haven't seen it in a long time. But everyone is saying that Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which is the fourth one in the franchise, is almost as good as the first one, which is very exciting because I was not going to watch this because I kind of felt like it was along the same lines as like Matrix Resurrection, but
Uh-huh.
this is actually encouraging. So if you get the chance with all of your massive amounts of free time, throw the original Beverly Hills Cop on so that we can talk about it and then maybe watch this one.
I got to tell you, that one's pretty low on my list of movies that I need to watch because there's so many movies I need to watch. I mean, I haven't even seen the Top Gun movies, which I know you say I need to watch. So I would say you'd probably rather me watch those than this one. But no, it's something I can always add to my list. And eventually, there's going to come a day where I'm caught up on everything and I'll need something to watch. So maybe this will just be that thing. But it's good to hear something good reviewing. I always like when stuff's doing well because it's just good for the industry overall. So that's awesome.
I talked to somebody today and they watched it 3 times over the week.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's a
So
lot.
it was a lot. They did say the second and third viewing they turn it on and they do something else, but they like to catch extra things as they watch
Yeah,
it,
oh, that's cool.
which is super interesting because I haven't done that in a really long time. Just throwing something on again to watch it because there's so much to watch. You can't afford
Yeah.
to watch things twice. But some of the things that I didn't watch 3 times, but it was new watches for me. Was I watched Sicario now? Again, I feel like this is known, but have you seen Sicario?
No, I have not, but I don't even remember what that movie is, but I know that name. So I think when you start explaining it, I'll probably remember it.
Well,
Um,
it's a Denis Villeneuve film, the director of Dune. It's one of his, and he's
uh-huh.
quickly becoming one of my favorite directors. This is about the drug cartels and their invasion and influence in America, and what the FBI, CIA is doing to kind of try to stop it. An FBI director gets recruited to a task team to take down one of the lead influencers in the drug cartel, and it's without any spoilers. This is fantastic. This is an eight, easy clear eight for me. Suspenseful, beautiful, well directed, amazing acting. It's got Josh Brolin, Emily Brunt, Benicio del Toro, John Bernthal, Daniel Kalua, I think is his name. He's the one from oh, what is he from? I'm trying to think. Inside, and it's not Inside Man. Get Out. He's from Get Out and Nope.
Okay.
So I mean, he is the star-studded cast, absolutely amazing direction, very, very good movie. If there's some movies that you like have to know somebody's taste to recommend, or you have to know uh, what they
What they
like,
like and stuff like
yeah,
that.
to
Yeah.
recommend it. This is one that I would recommend regardless of somebody's taste. I'd be like, this is a movie that's just good.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend watching it. I think I'm at the point now I would just watch anything that Dennis Villeneuve does because he has earned my trust with everything in his catalog portfolio of movies.
Well, I know he does have a pretty good movie list that he's done. I've heard a lot of people, even after all the Dune praise and stuff was done, that said, "Hey, if you liked Dune, you're probably going to like these other movies that he's done as well." So hearing that you also agree with that same take and that you'd probably like just about anything he puts out, that's really cool.
Yeah, Prisoners is a absolute thrill ride of a movie. Absolutely. Oh man, it is very, very good. It's suspenseful. Child gets taken, and the father tries to find her, and actually kidnap somebody suspected of taking her, which is, I mean, it's just an absolute thrill ride. That's Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, and original roadie. What's his name? Terrence Howard, Terrence Howard. So that movie's so good, super suspenseful, especially if you have children. It makes it even worse, but better at the same time. And then Arrival. I've talked about Arrival on here before as one of his films, but that's an Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner film about an alien comes and visits Earth, and then it's a language barrier. And it's so funny, but the entire movie is kind of about this linguist trying to communicate with aliens. And during that, we get involved in some pretty wacky science fiction that is absolutely incredible. And there's a little bit of time travel in it, time warping. It is incredible. I definitely watch Arrival. If you haven't seen it, it is a must. It's the same with Sicario, right? I would recommend Arrival to anyone. You say you don't like sci-fi, okay, Arrival is going to change your mind on that. It's just such a good movie. I don't. It's underrated at a 7.9. It's definitely it deserves higher than that. So that's
Well, I
my
always
that's my
love
Dennis Villeneuve rant.
I always love when there's movies that you can literally suggest to anybody, regardless of if they like certain genres or not. Because that's how movies should be. I think that's what puts movies into their upper echelon of things that make them so special. I think movies like Interstellar, Inception, stuff like that are movies that are just such good movies that you're going to enjoy it regardless of what you like and what you don't like. So I think it's awesome when we have a bunch of movies that are like that that you can enjoy just for the story that's being told rather than having to be a fan of the genre or whatever like that.
Yeah, he's definitely approaching Christopher Nolan level of filmmaker for me. It seems like he's not getting as much. Uh, what is it? Maybe accolades or uh, chances that Christopher Nolan has. It seems like Christopher Nolan gets trusted with better projects, and I think Christopher Nolan writes a bunch of his stuff as well. I know Dennis Villanueva writes his stuff as well on some of it, but he's just he's a better. I think his direction is just so good. So I don't think he's better than Christopher Nolan, but I think he's in the conversation for for that top director spot currently working in the industry today.
Well, I think he's also one of those directors that's very picky about what he does take on. I don't think he takes on anything just for the sake of taking it on. I think we see that a lot with Christopher Nolan. I think he only does stuff that he thinks he'd really be passionate about. And I think that's the ultimate sign of a good director when they're not just taking everything they can get for cash grabs and stuff like that. So ultimately, I think he's building up his resume quite nicely to definitely be in that conversation for sure.
Yeah, I do think he's not as picky as Christopher Nolan, and that does hurt him. But his average movie is definitely above a 7, which if
Yeah,
you can
that's a good
average above
sign.
a 7, that's incredible.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
but anyway, with that, I did watch Unfrosted too. Not too much to talk about there. It's a Jerry Seinfeld film. If you like Jerry Seinfeld, you're gonna love it. It's has funny moments. It's pure stupidity. Uh, so if you want to turn your brain off and watch a film and not be super uh, thought provoking or have much of anything, it's a really good one for you. If you grew up with 90s sitcoms comedy and you like that kind of stuff with like you like Anchorman type comedy, it's one you'll enjoy. I don't think it's making anyone's top list of comedy movie, but it's a good Netflix outing. but probably way too expensive for how good it is. I would say it's around a 6. I don't think I'd watch it again. So that's unfrosted. That's my take.
Oh, that's good. I'm probably not going to watch that one, but
I wouldn't recommend you to.
I wouldn't recommend that one.
There are so many movies that I think Jacob needs to watch that I would recommend to you way before that one. I would be insulted if you watched that one over some of the other
Well,
movies
that's
I've
going to be the next one I
recommended.
watch now. So
That
just out of
would,
spite.
yeah. Hey, that's something.
Uh,
That's something my friends would do to me. That just
right.
seems. Hey, you should really. I have so many friends who haven't seen The Matrix. That's you included, right?
Yes, I have not. So
Oh man, and
so you're saying to watch Unfrosted before that? That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. Turn on Unfrosted. It's better with the times. It's aged better in the last
Right.
3 days than the Matrix has in the last
Probably
25
looks a little
years.
better.
It doesn't. It looks way worse. So it's so sad.
Yeah.
But anyway, Unfrosted is what I watched. That's what the movies I watched this week, and I was really glad to be able to do that. And then Long Legs, we talked about that. We're not going to touch on that, but that does come out this week. So if you liked what we said about it in the last podcast, you're a serial killer fanatic. You like Silence of the Lambs. Go check out Long Legs this weekend and let us know. I may be able to sneak off and watch this one because I know my wife would absolutely love it. So may try to get her out to the cinemas this weekend and try to snag a date night, but because she's gonna love that one. But I'll
Yeah.
report back if I do. Without
Yeah, that'd be
further
great.
ado, you wanna hop into Acolyte?
Man, I think you touched on it a little earlier. This was a good episode. I think it did a lot for the story. Just kind of where we're at. It was a nice little breather, nice little catch up point. But overall, I think I'm excited. I guess we're getting 2 episodes on the next drop, which is tomorrow at the time
Oh,
of
are we
filming this.
really?
I think we are getting 2. I might be wrong about that, but I do know these episodes. The next 2 episodes are definitely longer episodes. I think they're both 43-minute runtime, which is definitely good for the show. I feel like it's definitely been rushed. So I'm excited about that. But overall, I thought it was a pretty solid episode. Now I know you've been a little bit pickier about it than I have throughout the whole, our time watching it. How did you feel about this one?
I think this episode depicted exactly what's wrong with this show. And what's wrong with this show is it took the Acolyte, which we were told was a Sith forward show,
Mm-hmm.
and put Jedi at the forefront of it. The Sith is the best part of the show.
Yeah.
Kamir is very, very good. I like what they do with him. I like the way he acts. I like the direction he's been given. It's very interesting. And if we would have just followed him throughout this show, I think this would have been a hit. Because then what you see for the Jedi isn't from a Jedi or commoner's perspective, it's from a Sith's perspective. And so even the little bit that we're getting him to talk to Osha and trying to kind of lure her to the dark side is very well done because it's coming from a Sith's perspective. Someone who automatically has encounters with the Jedi, was a former Jedi, got tempted by the dark side, and is now corrupted by this evil. And from his point of view, no one who's evil thinks they're evil. Like, they think they're doing what's right. They think the other
Yeah.
person is evil. So if this story would have been told from his perspective from the get-go, I think we'd have a different perspective on this entire show from the community. Now, I don't know if you would be enjoying it more because I know how much you've liked it right now, but every time he's on screen, he's having a conversation, he's doing something, I'm enjoying the show.
Well, and I think the thing we've talked about a lot is how bad the acting and the storytelling has been. I have to agree, though, if we had gotten this, just him as the forefront, he was the main character rather than this Osha May stuff that we're getting, I also agree it would be better. And that's coming from someone that's still enjoying the show and still looking forward to the new episodes that we're getting. But he is by far the best part of the show. He's the most intriguing character. He's the most interesting character. He's definitely the best actor on the show. So when he is on the screen, it's a lot easier to be engaged and be enjoying what you're getting rather than noticing all the flaws of the show, which I think is a testament to how good he's been in this show. So I agree with you on that. I do wish we were getting more Sith than what we are getting. I think maybe if these next two episodes can focus on that a little bit more, it could help the show, but I think it's been too long of kind of back and forth and really still having the Jedi be the main part of the show. That it's really not going to fix a lot of people's opinions. I think at this point, I'm still one of those people. I think you need to give the show, the entirety of the show before you make your final decision. But I do think this show is getting to the point where if you haven't started enjoying it by this point, I don't think you're going to. I think that you are still going to be able to find things that you do enjoy. I think as far as the acting in an episode goes, this was the best we've gotten because of how much Kamir was in it. So you can still enjoy certain things like that. I think you touched on how much you're enjoying when he's on the screen, and that if we had gotten that story, you would be even more enjoying, the overall show as a whole. So it's disappointing that they did advertise it as much as they did about being such a Sith-oriented show. And we have gotten more of the Sith than we've gotten in the past with things. So they've given us a little bit of it, but it's definitely not as much as we should have gotten.
They've given us more Sith than we got in the past of things, but you got to think of how much time we've spent on screen with this show.
Yeah.
I mean, you said you think they haven't spent enough time with it. But I mean, these episodes have been 30 to 40 minutes long, each one. So, I mean, we're 6 in, so that's a 3-hour movie. I mean, they should have been able to tell this entire story at least significantly better paced than what they did. I think a lot of people said this episode was a bore fest. This one was not good. And I disagree. I think this episode is actually character building because we're getting a discussion between Kamir and Osha. We're seeing talking. Now, on the flip side of that, I think everything with Soul sucks. I think Venistra Raw is horrible. I think Soul is the worst written character in Star Wars at this point, potentially. And everything with May is terrible. I like, honestly, they could have cut that entire part of the episode out and we would be in the same boat. Like Soul taking 15 minutes to find of screen time, not real time, but of screen time to find out that May is not Osha. And we're in the High Republic era of Star Wars. The Jedi are at the top of their game. They are the best of the best. They have control of pretty much the entire galaxy. And the ship that they sent out to the Outer Rim with 8 Jedi, star-studded trip, just happens to have a malfunction, not with the ship, but once it connects to its hyperdrive. That's so bad. It's clearly written that there's no reason for the breakdown. They don't say what the breakdown is. Oh, we need to restart the power. That shouldn't happen. That's not like a ship malfunction that's explained. There's nothing told about it. That is terrible. Absolutely horrendous writing. And I cannot be convinced that that's anything but cannon fodder, that they couldn't think of anything better to do with their time to keep Soul on the ship with May. They could have even shown May sabotaging the ship. Sabotaging the ship real quick and to kind of build time to get her revenge or something. Anything better than just, the best ship, one of the best ships that we have with our Jedi just happens to have a malfunction, so they have to sit here. Man, that was some garbage. And do you feel the same way about that? Or were you that's so good?
I actually didn't, I don't hate it as much as you're hating on it. I also don't think that Soul took forever to figure it out. I think he knew. And I think he was just kind of playing along with it and kind of getting a chance to talk to May before he, kind of that feeling for him was, I've let this person down, the reason they're in the situation is because of me. So it was that moment for him to kind of have a conversation with somebody before he comes to the, lets them know that he knows what's happening. I didn't get the same thought process that he didn't know. I think he did know from the very beginning that it was May, and he was just using that as an opportunity to just have a normal conversation with her. And then he realizes he has to stop doing that and actually has to get to, what's going on, why she is the way she is, what's happening. So that didn't bother me as much as it bothered you. But I also don't think that the storytelling's been superb. I do think there's been a lot of downtime that could have been done away with. There's definitely been a lot of parts where they've been doing stuff just for the sake of doing it to buy some time. But those things haven't bothered me enough to where I haven't enjoyed most of the episodes.
Yeah, That just to me, that's just so lazy. And I don't mind if you put something in there to give your characters time to have a conversation, or even if they would have given, but like give a reason. Like make it make sense to me. Like cuz that's not going to make sense to me. That's just going to be like you're the one telling the story. It's not up to me to fill in the blanks for why this doesn't make sense. You're the ones with $180 million. You can tell me why that ship broke. You can tell me why they're sitting in dead air in hyperspace. Their comms are not working, and you can do that succinctly, quickly, efficiently, and continue on with the story. You don't have to set on it. You don't have to harp on it. But to not get explanation, to me, that tells me you don't understand the technology of that era. You don't understand the ship. You don't understand why this would happen. So you're just not going to do it. And then if somebody points it out, well, they're just, they're being nitpicky. It's not a big deal. Well, it's storytelling, and it is a big deal if you want good products. So to me, that was a big deal to me because I am a stickler for a good story now. And then Venetia Ra, a Row, Master Row. Is it Row? Master
I
Row?
have
What
no
we
idea how
decide
you
on?
pronounce that one.
Whatever. The green lady with the light whip.
RWOH.
RWOH is what the IMDb is telling me. But I think she's also poorly written. It's clear that Khmer is her Padawan, that she turned evil essentially. I think she whipped him. I think that's the scar we saw when he got nudie on screen and took his little skinny dip bath. I think that was to show that he had been whipped by a lightsaber, and I think we saw the light whip in this episode in particular to show that connection, to foreshadow that. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would. It's one of those things that I feel like they're trying just to tell us, like they did with Khmer. I would be. I think it would be bad, really bad storytelling if they don't make that, the actual story. So hopefully they do stick with that. It's gonna be interesting, and I think it's just another way they're trying to cover up their whole the Sith thing. I think they're going to use this as they use that term. I've said it before, the rogue Jedi a whole lot. I think they kind of probably view Khmer more as a rogue Jedi than a Sith. Um, so I think that's kind of where they're going with that. Overall, I feel like it's just a bunch of the same. That's another one of the little problems I've had. Obviously, we just had this same exact storyline with Sol and Osha, a master and a Padawan, one that left the other. It seems like we're just getting that exact same thing again. So I'm going to be interested to see if it actually holds up and actually ends up being a good storyline. But I think this is not going to be something they spend a whole lot of time on, personally.
I think it may be the crux of it. You talked about the soul and the Padawan turning. We're clearly seeing Osha put on the helmet. It's
Yeah.
foreshadowing that she's going to be evil. The show is a Sith forward show. They have Carrot in front of the face to us with Soul did something terrible. He did something evil. He's hiding something. He's actually the bad guy for several episodes now. So I mean, I don't even care what he did now. Like they've teased it so much that I don't care. You lost the ability for me to be interested in that because it clearly doesn't matter, or you would have said it. He has almost said what he's done, I think, 3 times on screen and been cut off or not said it. That again, like that's teasing storytelling. I don't like that. Like if you're gonna tease storytell something like one time, okay, I get it. Build anticipation. The second time, eh, whatever. I guess they're doing this, and then the third time you're like, okay, whatever. I don't care. Like you've lost my interest, and that's how I felt about it every time. Like this last time that he like went to tell, I was like, okay, we're finally gonna hear what he did, and then it's like, uh hyperspace. I'm gonna evade the people I was calling for help after my entire team got massacred by this dude. I let him live. He's clearly alive. I don't know where Osha's at. I'm with May. Not what changed in his mind that now he's like, you know what? I didn't need their help. I wasn't trying to transpond to them like I was the entire episode. I'm going to throw it into hyperspace and go where I don't know anyone's at and try to find Osha. Like, did I miss May putting in coordinates to the Master's planet that she doesn't even know where it's at because she hasn't been revealed that he's the Master?
Yeah, I feel the same way about the like hinting at what he's done. Hinting, it does feel like it's kind of lost its power. So when we find out about it, we're just going to be like, okay, it's a little late for that. It doesn't really impact the story anymore because everything's already
Yes,
fallen into
you
place.
agree.
Yeah, that I agree with. But I'm just there's some things I'm just not even looking for anymore. Yeah, you're just gonna enjoy what you're getting on the screen, which I'm still enjoying it. So, um, but yeah, I do agree with that part. I feel like I think he was about to tell her again too at the end of the episode, and that's when it went to the end
He
credits.
was, he
So
was, and then
I think it happened
then the
twice in one
hyperspace came
episode.
online. The
Yeah, it
hyperspace
happened
came
twice in
online.
one episode. So yeah, it's getting to the point that is kind of a dead storyline already. I don't think anyone cares about that anymore. But I guess nonetheless, it'll let us know what he did eventually. Maybe not. Maybe that's the running joke with the show is we just never know.
Honestly, that would be so much better. That would be such a Chad play. It's just like you just gotta
Yeah, we
assume
never
he killed
know.
all. You just gotta assume he killed all them Night Sisters.
Yep. Or something else happened. Something else wild happened. But yeah, I don't know. It would be better if at this point if they probably just don't ever say anything about it again. So we'll see what happens. But no, I agree with that take. I think it has taken too long for them to tell us that little part. It's really not a big part of the show anymore because everything
It's
else has
not,
fallen into
but
place.
they're making it act like this is some big
Unless
mystery.
it is something absolutely wild, like it's gonna have to be something that really hits home. Like,
Dude, it turns
but
out he's actually their father.
or
This
I mean, I've heard
wasn't
a lot of people
created.
that still think he is Kamir's master. So
Oh, dude, there's no
there's
chance. There's
there's so
no
many
chance
running
that's true.
storylines. But no, I agree. That's something I'll agree with you on this show. Is it has taken way too long for us to find out what he did, and we
Well,
still know
so,
there's some scenes in the trailers that we haven't seen, so we might not even get it in the next episode.
well,
Next
didn't
episode
the
might be a
Wookiee
lot of the
fight? Didn't the
yes,
Wookiee fight
yes.
in the
We are
trailer?
we are due a Wookiee fight soon.
We're not gonna
Um,
get it. They cut that. I bet they cut
that's
that.
I would if they man people are already upset we saw him die without fighting. Man, the uproar will be even worse
Dude,
if
they cut
after
that in
people started
post.
bringing that up again, they're like, "Oh wait, it's gonna happen," and then it just doesn't happen. That would be hilarious.
I
I would
think that's
actually
what
at that point,
happened.
I would just think it's funny.
I agree. I think right now they're in total just what is it? They're meme moding. They're meme moding, and I think they're
They
playing the
they just
audience.
took the extra money. They were like, "Oh, we didn't actually spend that budget. We're just gonna."
Well, we actually fully digitized it. We modeled it. We shot it. We cut it for the trailer, but it really just didn't fit in the storyline. We really had
Yeah.
to show them like looking for bugs, so we cut that.
Yep.
But how do you feel about Soul just completely changing his mind from asking for help, sending the distress call, waiting for the Jedi's to respond, and then when he has the opportunity to communicate, if he waits half a second, he sees them, he takes off into hyperspace without communicating.
I think they're just also. I think that's also another push to try to make it seem like he's done something worse, and they're trying to build him up as a villain. I mean, we talked about that a little bit, where they were trying to make the Jedi seem like the villains. I think this is just a continuance of that. Is they're trying to make it seem like Soul really isn't that great of a person, which ultimately throughout the whole show, we kind of viewed him as probably the best of the Jedi. Always the one being the most understanding and the one most willing to listen and hear people out. So it feels like they're kind of going back on that a little bit, where he's kind of does have his own agenda. But it's kind of like the May and Osha thing that we saw earlier in the season when May was like, "Oh, my sister's alive. I'm good now." But then she goes right back to being bad again. It's kind of that. So that really didn't surprise me that much. It's kind of right in course with this show's storytelling. So
Oh man, gotta love it, gotta love it. But it's hey, it is what it is.
it is.
Um, I and like I said, I did really enjoy everything with Kamir and Osha. I thought it was fine. You know, um, I think it shows his power drastically. With his
Yeah,
willingness to be
manipulative.
vulnerable in front of her. I did think it was a little weird for him to strip completely naked and see as much of him as we did in a Star Wars show. Uh, it was a little strange moment for me, but hey, you got to bring in the female audience somehow. So, uh, but everything other than that odd moment, I felt like was good. I liked what they did. I liked him explaining what cortosis was. Um, that was pretty cool as well. Seeing him little weld on it, interesting. But yeah, it's just everything, and it went by fast for me. Everyone else said it was a slow, boring. I actually enjoyed this one. I thought it was good. With Kamir, but yeah, everything with the Jedi has just been awful. Um, sad,
Well, you know my take
sad.
on it.
You're enjoying it. You're turning your brain
Yeah,
off, and you're enjoying it.
I'm still enjoying it. I still have it as a 7 rating for me. It hasn't dropped. It
It's
hasn't
still a
lowered.
7.
Yeah, I'm still a 7. I think the
Oh
fight scene
man,
was so good. I've enjoyed a lot of like the little stuff that they're giving us that's now being canonized, such as the Cortosis. I don't know if you noticed, but the planet that Kamir's on is actually the planet that we see Luke Skywalker go to in the sequel movie. So I thought that was a cool
it
a
looked the
little nod.
same. I didn't
Yes,
realize it was the exact same one.
yeah, it's supposed to be the same one. And the cool thing about that is that planet is, I believe it's called Octu in the sequel movies. And that planet is actually where one of the first Jedi temples was formed and all that stuff. Way even before this show takes place. But it also is just a very strong place for the Force, and it's a cool thing that they're doing where it's called Octu for the Jedi, but the Sith call it another name, which I think that's cool
Okay.
little things that they're doing like that. So there's been some cool stuff that I'm really enjoying with it. We touched on the Cortosis, I just mentioned it. I really like that kind of being canonized in Star Wars now. Overall, I think it's been cool. I like some of the definitions they gave us for Cortosis. I loved how he said, when you put this helmet on, it kind of like helps you
Sensory
lock in.
deprivation.
Yeah, I think that's cool stuff. I think because it
That
makes
was
sense.
really good.
Yeah, there's some neat stuff that they're doing. I still think the acting is absolutely atrocious. So that is probably one of my biggest complaints with the show. Um, I can agree the storytelling isn't great and the pacing is off, but I do enjoy a lot of the other things that they're doing. So that's why I've been so lenient with the show. But I'm excited to see what else we get throughout the rest of it. It's going to be fun. I think the ending, I think we're still doing another really cool fight. I don't think we saw maybe the best one yet. I think we're going to have another really good one, which I'm excited for. I'd really like for it to be either Kamir going crazy again and killing all of the Jedi, and maybe Osha being a part of that where she kills the Jedi. Or I'd also really like to see maybe Kamir's, if he does have a master. I've been seeing a lot of people saying there's some cool Legends stuff that they could be doing here with Darth Tenebrous, which is Darth Plagueis' master, that he actually had an Acolyte, which is what they call it when he had his master, because the rule of two. There's a lot of cool storylines that could potentially happen. And they've actually done a good job of keeping up with some of those things. So I'm excited to see where the story goes overall. But I understand your complaints because I agree with some of them. But overall, I'm still keeping it at a 7. I'm still enjoying it. I'm still excited to see what they do.
Yeah, with the soul stuff, with the raw stuff, and May, I have this at a 4 right now. The fight was almost enough to get me to a 5, but man, they really messed some stuff up. Now, if they have another absolutely amazing action scene, they really turn the focus on Osha and Kamir in these last 2 episodes. We kind of abandon the sister coven. We abandon May. We abandon Soul, and we abandon every other Jedi, and we really kind of just focus on Osha and Kamir. I can see this even potentially getting a 6 if they really dial it in on these last 2 for me. They can make it an enjoyable show for me that I'll never watch again. But at the moment, I honestly, the acting is so bad. I think it's going to stay at a 5 for me, regardless. I think that's kind of its limit, just because of how bad the acting has been. And again, I don't put that on the actors. I put that on the direction they've been given, because I don't think these actors are just bad. Because we've seen some of these actors in other things that have been very good. In particular, uh, what is not Yord, the girl Padawan,
Oh,
Daphne
Daphne
Keene.
Keene.
Daphne Keene is not a bad actress, but she was bad in this. So I think because of that, I blame a lot of that on the directing. I think Rebecca Henderson, who plays Master Raw, is really bad in her position. If we're gonna get more of her, I think that's gonna hurt the acting of it, not necessarily benefit it. But I will say I do want to give some positive. I've been pretty 50-50. I feel like this episode. Uh, I like that the light whip cut. Now, I got the dial in complaint that the light whip actually holds people, but in this episode, they changed what Legends says, and that the light whip holds things, and they actually slice that bug right in half. And I thought that was an improvement to the concepts of a light whip from what I was told. And I enjoy that they actually used what I would consider common sense in the changing of a plasma blade and how that would operate if changed into a whip construction instead of a blade. How did you feel about that change?
I mean, I'm kind of indifferent to it. I don't really have a super preference on that. I'm not a big fan of the light whip personally. I think it's a
I'm not
cool
either.
concept. But that the give or take for that one with me. I think it was a cool little scene that we got there. But I think it's kind of indifferent to me. I do think she is going to die by the end of the show. For sure, in one way or another, whether Osha kills her, Kamir kills her, she's definitely going to die. If I had to guess, like who is almost a for sure death, I would be disappointed if she doesn't, because she definitely strikes me as that type of character that's only going to be in this show, a one-time thing. So I hope that's the case, honestly, because I'm not a big fan of that character either. But I do think the lightsaber whip, give or take for me, I'm not a big fan either way you put it. But I know
Okay.
that's an improvement for you, so that's cool.
Yeah. Now, I do want to touch back on some of our predictions. Once again, we're wrong on our predictions. We thought that they may be going the Knights of Ren path. Clearly, they're not doing that right because he said he wanted the rule of two, and that's not a Knight of Ren, correct?
Well, I think it depends. Still, I think it's up in the air. I think they could still go with it, and this is such an early adaptation of the Knights of Ren that maybe he is adopting some of those Sith principles.
Okay.
Um, so I'm still going to keep that as a possibility, but I would agree with you. It does seem like they may potentially be straying back away from that. But the director of the show also did say, because they did use the Kylo Ren theme song in that episode, she did say that was for a purpose. So some way or another, we're going to tie into that theme, eventually. I don't know exactly how
Sure.
they're going to do it because she did also say it's not in the way that we expect. So I don't know how to take that, but they did use that song on purpose. So some way or
Sure.
another, Kylo Ren is going to be a part of the story. Some way. I don't know how they're going to do that, but I think if
I
you're going to use his theme song and you're going to say that we did that on purpose, he's got to tie in some way. So
I
we'll
think
see what happens there.
I have such little faith in this director that I honestly think she could have just been saying like we didn't accidentally use the same thing. That was like purposeful pulled from Star Wars to use in Star Wars. Like
Yeah.
I honestly I don't I would not take that comment from this director and say like she meant like that actually had meaning beyond just it playing because she's had no um I guess she's had nothing to back that before in the show since. Like nothing has been clever or well thought out storyline or whoa, like didn't see that coming. So I just think that she might have been like saying like yeah we purposely used that's right that was
Because we
Kylo.
like it.
Like
We
like
like that
yeah,
song.
not saying like yeah we purposely used that for something else. Like I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm not too excited. Like I'm not. I don't know for sure on that one, but she did
Yeah.
say that, so at least we believe there might still be more there to it. But I'm not for sure convinced though that it's not a Sith thing. I think it could just be the early principles of the Knights of Ren maybe had a lot of Sith principles. I think that's pretty evident in what the
Okay.
Knights of Ren are. But
I don't
I'd
know
probably agree
hardly
with
anything
you.
about them.
No, I would agree with you that that probably puts it to bed. But I think there's still enough evidence there that if you are one of those firm believers that that's definitely the path they're going down, you still have some things you can hold on to with that one.
Yeah. Now, your prediction is that Master Raw, that's what I'm going to say. That's how I'm going to say her
Right.
name. Master Ra. Master Ra is dead. Do you have any other predictions of who is going to bite the dust by the end of episode 8?
Um, what? Because we that was episode 6, right? Is episode 8
That's
the? I
episode
guess that's the
6.
final episode.
Yeah, and it is only one episode tomorrow.
Okay,
Episode
so maybe I
7,
just
and
saw
then
something
next
else.
week is episode 8.
Okay. Um, so I don't know. I think she's gonna die at some point. I do think Soul will die. I don't know about Kamir. I think he's probably going to, but I also don't know. I don't want to say that for sure, but I feel like they have to kill off some of these characters for some things to make sense, which I don't think they're really even looking for things to make sense 100%.
Clearly
So
not.
so I don't know exactly where they're going with who's going to die, who's not. I think she's going to. I think you could probably bet Soul is going to, and it's going to really have a big impact on May and Osha, one or the other. I think we're already starting to see the shift that May is going to end up being the good character by the end of this, and Osha will be the evil one. Um, so that's probably my biggest prediction, which I think a lot of people have probably agreed with and have predicted already. But I don't know who's necessarily going to die or not, because these are also characters that it is set far enough in the past that they can live and it wouldn't really affect current stuff. But I don't think they really care if it affects current stuff. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But I think that's probably my biggest one. I think Osha's going to be bad, May's going to be good, she's going to die, and probably Soul is going to die. I think those would probably be the ones I would, if I was betting on it, that's probably what I would bet on.
Here's my prediction. May, dead. Master Soul, dead. Master Ra, dead. Mog Adana, which was the long-faced, ugly-looking Jedi helper,
Okay.
dead. And I think that Kamir is going to live, and I think that Osha is going to become his rule of 2 at the
Okay.
end of this. And if they do a second season, it will introduce Kamir's master, and then they will try to overthrow him if that's what they have the plans to do in the future. That's my guess.
Do you think this gets a second season?
Not a chance.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I think it's not even necessarily because whether you agree with it's been a bad show or not. I think the review bombing of it, and whether you think it's good or not, it definitely suffered from a review bombing.
It's
Because
so funny because you touch on the review bombing. So IMDb has a weighted review.
uh-huh.
And so what they show is actually removing what they deem as bot reviews. And they do a pretty good job. The review they give it without bot reviews is 3.5. And the unweighted, like if they didn't edit it, was 3.1. So yes,
Yeah,
it definitely got reviewed bombed by a ton of people.
I disagree though with the bot thing. I don't think the review bombing was necessarily bots. I think it was a lot of people taking other people's opinions and running with it. I think that's what we saw a lot of this was one Star Wars influencer, someone that said it was bad, so his whole fan base went and also said it was bad. I don't think there's been a lot of people actually watching this show and really giving their own opinion on it. Personally, I think
not too many people have their own opinion anymore.
Well, exactly, and I think that's where we've seen the review bombing. I don't necessarily think it's bots. I think it has just been an alarming amount of people that just agreed with what somebody else said and went with it. And whether that's true or not, whether they actually feel that way, we'll never be able to tell. But I do think that's a lot of why the reviews are as low as they are. And I do think ultimately that's why it won't get a second season, because even if people can say all day that it was review bombed, at the end of the day, the review is going to stick. So I think for that reason alone, it won't get a second season. Which I think is not necessarily a bad thing, because while I'm still enjoying the story we're getting, it's not like something I'm dying for a second season over. I would like something else over this, just because I don't like the acting. The story is okay. It's not the worst story I've ever heard. So I don't mind that if it doesn't get a second season. But I think that's ultimately what I'm saying about the review bombing. I don't think it's been bots necessarily. I think it's just been a lot of people watching a first episode. They heard someone else's reaction to it, and they said, oh, you know what? It is really terrible. And they never really watched again.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people dipped out at episode 3, which was the low point of the show. And I think at episode 3, if you did love Star Wars, I think a 2 or a 3 is actually a justifiable rating for the show at that point. because it did for diehard fans who really felt offended by the fact that another being was created out of the Force. That's a big deal to them. I think that's justified. However, I do think you
Mm,
should watch an entire show before rating it. And so, and I mean, I don't think a 1 star is appropriate for this. It looks too good for a 1 star, in my opinion. Even the like worst of stories, if they're visually pleasing, I think it should at least get a bonus point for being visually pleasing,
yeah,
which this show is.
I've already given my feelings and
You
thoughts on
got
the
your
whole.
7. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We can
I've
ramble
given
on it.
my I've given my feelings and thoughts on the people that think it's stupid that there was more force sensitive children born out of the force. I've already said that. If you guys wanted to listen to that episode, you can go find it. I forget what episode number that was, but I'm sure it says something in the title.
Yeah, episode. Did they just ruin Star Wars? I believe is the title
Yeah.
of the
So
episode.
you can go hear my opinion there because I don't think they did personally, but I do know a lot of people did agree with that. And
Zayn included.
I've actually talked to people that had literally said they saw that stuff and have never watched the show, but still think it's terrible. So I think that's also where you're seeing that review bombing stuff take place. I've heard people say they heard about that, they had never even watched the first episode, and they hated it. So I think that's just kind of harsh to base a show off of something you heard from somebody else. So that's kind of where you guys can go watch that episode if you want to hear my breakdown of it, because
Yeah,
I think I did a good job of explaining why I don't think it's the worst thing. Um, so, but yeah,
yeah. As the late great as one of my favorite artists say, think your own thoughts. Don't let them do it for you.
yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
don't let social media drive your thoughts. Don't let us drive your thoughts. I'd love to give our recommendations for movies and reviews, and I hope you guys value our opinion. I think that's why you're here, or you just love hearing us ramble on. But for that aspect of it, think your own thoughts. Like, watch, if you are a Star Wars fan and you're on the boat, give it a try. If you don't
Yeah,
like it, you don't have to finish it. This is something we do because we love Star Wars. We love reviewing stuff. We love talking about it. So, if I wasn't doing this, and well, I would still watch it because I love Star Wars. But if I wasn't a huge Star Wars fan, I would definitely be done watching it by this point. But I think I mean, this episode was a turnaround point for me. It was good for I think I saw the fix. The biggest issue I have with it, and that is the story is supposed to be Sith driven, but it's not been Sith driven. And I think if they did that, they would have had a better show. But do you have much more to say about? I mean, we talked about a good portion of this episode, which most people said was boring. You got anything else to add for the show or
no,
on
I think
Acolyte?
that's a good stopping point. I think we're both excited to see where they do go, whether you've liked it or not. I think by this point we're both invested in the story enough that we have to see it through.
Oh man,
So
if not for the
it'll
memes.
Yeah, right. It'll be fun to see where it goes. But no, that's all I've got for this one.
All right. Well, guys, like Jacob said earlier, if you enjoy our opinions, our views, you think our content is not great, but you enjoy listening anyway, give us a review. If you do like the show, stop in, give us a follow on Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a like and a review, and reach out to us. We're on the social medias. We're on Instagram. We're on X. And I believe our email is also down there if you want to reach out to us. If you know us personally, as always, you're free to give us your reviews, your opinions, things we say too much, things we pronounce incorrectly, things we get wrong. We love hearing all about it. We do really enjoy the engagement, whether it's constructive or encouraging. We love all of it. So please reach out to us. Please hit the follow, and we will catch you in the next one. This is the Weekly Fix signing off.